All right. Great, Lisa. So glad that you're here with us today.
Um,
Um, how are
I'm
you
glad to
doing?
be here.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. You're the first out of the group as well, so that's exciting.
Wow. Yes,
Yeah,
I like
bold,
that.
bold move. All right. So Lisa, let's start with just learning a little bit about your background as a solopreneur, as a business owner. How did that journey start for you?
Hmm. I'm actually only a solopreneur since, well, it's a good 3 years now. I left my corporate job in March 2020. It coincided exactly with COVID. So I think it would have been a big change anyway. And the funny thing is, I never had, until that moment, I never had the desire to be independent. Never ever. I love security. I was a bit like, I'm happy to know what I have at the end of my month. And I must admit, I had always jobs with a lot of freedom. So I never felt that I need more freedom. However, having worked for myself now since 3 years, I would never go back unless I need it, right? If it doesn't work at financial level, I would always, because I enjoy, it's not mainly this question of when and how long I work. I'm not really working less. But it's more the freedom to decide what I'm going to do. And this is at the same time, I mean, it's the biggest freedom and it's my biggest challenge.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, um, when you take the decision to step out of your job because you feel a calling to do something else, then the question is always coming back, is this what I left my job for? Is this still 100% of what I want to do? Um, because there are painful moments, right? This kind of, I need to put out something new. So I question much more what I'm doing than when I was employed. I was just doing the tasks, and okay, if I really started feeling I need a new challenge, then I might have looked at a new one. But now it's a constant thing. It's a constant thing, yeah. At least with part of my business, and that's quite challenging because, like, the idea of stopping something and starting something new is each time taking energy. It's each time creating a lot of doubts. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think it's the biggest freedom and the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox in
Yeah.
that sense, right? Yeah, I think the whole entrepreneurial journey is a big paradox. So how are you navigating that, or how have you been navigating that over the last few years?
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a great question. Because I'm also still learning to navigate it. I have the big luck, and I would actually probably advise everybody to do that. I'm standing on several legs, and I have a couple of jobs or clients for which I work, which are actually giving me the financial freedom to, on the other side, play and innovate and look for what I really feel like I need to give. Because, as I said before, the challenge is, what is it really that I want to bring to this world? And this is constantly changing. So I'm having that stable side, which is basically replicating the kind of work I was doing before as an employed person. So I know it's relatively easy for me, and I must admit, I still enjoy it. Actually, I like that. I wouldn't want to do it 100%, but I still like it. And I'm having the whole personal development side, supporting, people in their journeys, which is my playground. And I'm a yoga teacher, and I see that more like a paid hobby. So,
Wow. Yeah, multiple
yeah.
legs, as you said. Yeah.
I have several lanes, and to be honest, it makes the journey quite enjoyable for myself for two reasons. It's on the one hand the financial freedom, but I'm not really functioning well with an empty page. Like, when I sit down at my desk in the morning and I have no meetings or tasks or emails, I get slightly irritated. I work better when I have something going on, some things to just do. I open my mailbox,
Mm,
I have some
mm,
work to do for, the federations I work with, and I just do it, and it gives me a good feeling of, ticking it off. And then I can take the rest of the time for, okay, now I'm kind of writing something. I'm writing posts to introduce more on social media what I'm doing, to create programs, to coach clients. And so it's like I like the mix. It's easier for me, and yet I've been struggling a lot with that over the last year, because it also happens, of course, I took on too much on one side, and then I did actually not have the freedom to work a lot on the other side. So it's about navigating it, finding my balance. And I think I have learned quite a lot about that over the last 3 years. And I'm finally at the point right now where I feel like the balance is right. I have enough on the one side to still keep it interesting, but I also have time to really go for something else.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, that balance between those three legs.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's really, really, really interesting. Because it sounds like, those three legs are satisfying different sort of values that you have, right? You mentioned the need for a sense of security in one sense. Um, and then also your other work is like your playground, the
Mm,
opportunity for you to experiment, to create new possibilities, explore. But you've got that balance. You've managed to create that balance between what you need, what you'd love to have, what you'd love to do. Um, and it's a constant sort of balancing act, or
mm,
maybe not balancing, but creating harmony with your work and how you work. Um, I'm sure there are a lot of solopreneurs and business owners who can relate to what you're saying, especially about the blank canvas. Kind of sitting
mm.
there looking at an empty calendar and thinking, okay, what do we do today? You know,
Yeah.
what's important for us to do today? So let's, if you're willing, if we just go back to that, because I think that could be really useful when you do look at your empty calendar. How do you make a decision about what to do next?
And my calendar, you mean, or
Mm.
on a daily basis?
Yeah, if you
Um,
haven't got anything kind of scheduled or, penciled in, what do you do? How do you spend your time?
hmm. What becomes more and more important for myself, I must admit, is taking some time for myself in the
Mm.
morning, and actually up to 2 hours to go out in nature, to do a bit of sports, to do yoga, to do a bit of meditation, because it just makes me feel alive. And when I do that, I'm actually also much better afterwards to become productive. If I
Mm.
just rush at my
Mm.
desk, I can do things that are there, but then getting creative doesn't really work.
Mm.
Um, it is a challenge in the sense that I have not yet found the ideal structure. Like, I'm taking certain clients only on certain days.
Okay.
And I have not created that because something in me is not willing to do it, because I also love doing things immediately, getting them out of the way. So the idea of not opening certain mailboxes, 2 days a week is a bit of but yeah, that could be something to get better at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
And
so would you say that's a current sort of challenge that you're looking into at the moment? How to kind of structure your work week in a more
yeah, and I wonder
efficient
whether
way?
I need it different because
Mm.
I like it that way.
Okay.
Um, but it makes it difficult to really get myself down to do the work that is not urgent, which is creating business on the personal development side.
Mm.
And as much as I love it and as much as it matters to me, this is the difficult part, because there is still a kind of, I mean, it's not an empty page. I had filled it, but I've changed it again. So I need to fill it again because I've changed direction.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
becomes also, it's probably also a challenge because it becomes more and more different from the other work I do. So on the one hand, I'm kind of the business person. I'm working with corporates. I'm working for international federations. I'm doing management, and I love it.
Mm.
On the other side, I'm very much into the more spiritual, into coaching, into supporting men and women, and more women, to kind of find balance between their masculine and their feminine side. So these
Wow.
things are apart, and I feel I probably need to create more space to dive into the personal development work. Sitting here doing emails and then jumping in the other is
Yeah.
sometimes working, but often it's also not. And I can imagine that I can improve that a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, what a broad spectrum that you cover.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And so with your work with the organizations, the international federations, how structured are you in that area of your work, would you say?
I would probably consider myself as quite structured, but I'm not sure it's true. um, I think I'm good at getting the job done and in putting priorities and making sure that they all happen on time. Um, yeah, and as I said, I tend to, do things immediately. So it's a good question.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, you do consider yourself structured in that sense. So I'm just wondering how you can replicate that into your other work.
Yes. Yes, that's true. Mm.
There's always a challenge, isn't there? As an entrepreneur, business owner, I think
It is. And it's
one
good
of
you
the
asked because I think it's about clear goal setting.
okay,
And I have a goal which, I mean, it took me a long time to let it ripe
mm,
inside, but now it's not 100% clear, but I'm getting there. But I know I haven't set a proper goal in terms of a timeline. And it's not always the way I like to work, but I think it does help me to commit to something and ideally to actually have a buddy and say like, look, you ask me in a month's time when I've done that, and get it done.
nice. Yeah, nice. I love working around the distinction of timelines versus guidelines.
Mm,
I also like a little bit of flexibility in there. I'm not the best with like hard deadlines. So I kind of like working with a guideline, getting it done,
mm,
having a moment clear that okay, this needs to be done
yeah.
by this point. Um, for me personally, deadlines don't give me that client that to really get it done. So that's I guess
Mm,
what works for you really, isn't it?
mm,
Yeah. So a question that you can use for any of the industries that you're working in at the moment. Um,
mm,
what is particularly happening or trending in an industry that you're working in right now that's catching your attention?
hmm. Well, if I start with a personal development business, of course, since I am a solopreneur or a multipreneur, right? Because
Multi-preneur, I like that. Yeah.
I'm, yeah, I think I'm rather multipreneur, and I like having different projects. But of course, on that side, I'm observing that there are so many people in that business, and what um, what I find a bit sad is that it looks like becoming an industry. And for me, personal development is not an industry. You can, want to earn your money there, fair enough, right? Be paid well. And yet, to make it an industry and make it work like any other industry in with marketing strategies which are like in any other industry, for me is just kind of not working together. And that made me struggle a lot in the beginning, this kind of, oh, I think I need to market myself, but it doesn't feel right for me to do it that way. So I think it's maybe not a trend, right? But that's something that was catching my eye. And trend wise, it's nice to observe, on the other hand, that the whole world of offerings of personal development, growth for people, for individuals, growth for organizations, spirituality, even at the workplace, well-being, health and wellness, and the mental part plays a huge role, is just becoming more important. So it's lovely to see that both the consciousness that we need this and the readiness to go into it is increasing, and that actually gives me a big smile and makes me want to offer more in that industry. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Wow. And how did any of those fit into your any of your professional missions or objectives, would you say?
Um, it is fitting 100%, but one specific part of it. Because at the moment, what I feel I really want to give is very much related to my personal journey. So it's like helping women, but then ultimately not only women, but helping the world to re-embrace the values of the feminine. And when I talk about feminine, I mean the feminine is more the vessel, the receiving, the kindness, the empathy, the connection builder, the family builder, the connection builder between people, the spiritual, the creative. And at
Mm,
the moment, these values are really strongly underrated in our society. And in my opinion, that's why we became such a divider, why the whole question of gender equality is on the agenda. It's because it has been promoting the linear, the analysis, the structural, which is all necessary, but we need both. And I think not only women, but the whole world need to have back more of that, feminine part. And I want to do it through the women because I think it's our work to kind of claim back the place that we want to have in that world and the role that we should have in that world. And I mean, I must say it for myself, like it's about growing up, right? Not playing the little girl, playing the victim, crying about, oh, we don't have enough rights, but it's about being the women that we want to be with a good balance of, the masculine, the functioning part, holding the structure, and the more feminine, the more gentle, the more soft, and for me certainly the more vulnerable part, because without that I would have never become a solopreneur. I would have never embraced. I'm still surprised that I became independent, who said, during over 20 years of career, I never want to be independent. But I allowed this, the vulnerability to kind of let that desire grow, that there's something more I
mm.
want to to the world. And
Wow.
with that, I wouldn't have become what I am. And I can only recommend it to everybody, right?
Wow.
Having the
Wow.
playground to be who you are and to give what really you have to give, which is also a journey of searching, right? And I
Hmm.
know it's going to still change, right? I know what I'm on now and what my mission is, and it's a big one. And I know it's gonna change with time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that. Wow, I love that, Lisa. Yeah, it's like you said, you were searching, you followed your curiosity into the playground, and
Mm.
this is where you're bringing your mission out to the world. And so you mentioned about bringing the femininity back into the workplace, into society. It, how do you see that happening? There's a lot happening in the sort of female empowerment area at the moment.
Mm.
How do you see this kind of evolving over the next few years?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. There is female empowerment, and I partly call my work exactly that, and partly I don't, because it's not about just making women stronger so they can take whatever kind of leadership position. Well, it is, but it's trying to support them to do that in fully embracing their feminine, and not just, reinforcing the confidence, the structure, the analysis, the fighting, the competition. Um, and I think it's a slow process. There is a bit of opening in organizations because they see that, if a leader is not able to be vulnerable, he or she loses connection with the staff, he loses trust with the staff. So there is some kind of getting, and yet I think it's very slow and very small. And yeah, let's see how. But it's beautiful to see that there are other people on the same journey, and yeah, that's also something I've discovered, through the network you have created. It's that there are other people who are doing kind of, who are after the same, who see it as their mission to support women, not only to become leaders or management, to hold management positions, but to become feminine or female leaders, the way they are. And ultimately, as I said, it's not just about women, right? It's about the whole world. It's about men embracing, the side that they also have inside of them.
Yeah,
Um,
love that. I think that's a really important point. I think it's not
mm,
just from the side of women, but also from men. I think that's really fundamental, actually. And we could have an entire conversation about that. Um,
yeah.
in itself. Maybe we should,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, probably we should.
as a sort of a final few thought, is there which female, I don't even know if I want to think leaders, but which women inspire you when you think about the work that you do and what you're working towards?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Good question. I think there are a couple of very different ones. There are people like Brené Brown, who is owning her vulnerability in becoming an idol, a person that people really appreciate. And I see her as very strong at the same time. There are people like Tina Turner, they have really made their way through up and down and without lying about it or trying to hide it. And I've been in my recent journey going very far back because it's true, right? What role models do we have? What female role models do we have in this world? And Mary Magdalene, to go really far back, is one of them, because they used to be there. It's a process that has happened over, the last, yeah, couples of centuries that the feminine
Mm,
has been almost suppressed in society. So kind of what, role models do we have? And there used to be some in religion too. So I think there are a couple of them, but these three are certainly
mm. I think
amongst the top. Yeah.
that's a really good point as well that you mentioned. They've always been there. They've
Mm,
always been there. Another one that came to my mind was Cleopatra or Caterina de' Medici. So, I mean, there's if we look back through history, there's so many.
mm,
So it's great to recognize that they've always
mm,
been there. Um, and so, yeah, I really can't wait to see how you develop your mission further, continue impacting women, and not just women, as you said, men as well,
mm,
um, to create this difference in society, and not just in corporate as well, but in society. Um,
mm.
so, yeah, very exciting. And Lisa, just one final thought. One tip or suggestion for any solopreneur out there right now with a similar challenge?
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it depends, of course, on personality, but for me, it was very, very important to have um, people to work with. That was what I was missing most when I was stepping out of the other job, having the connection. And
Mm,
so it's about having community, right? Either when you have a work part in which you have it, but also people you can share your thoughts with whom you can share projects. I find it so much easier to do a podcast with somebody else or a new project with somebody else rather than having to, step out in the unknown by myself. So that's
yeah,
probably one of the biggest one. Yeah. And then follow your
yeah.
heart. Make sure you have enough
Love
to
it.
eat, and for the rest, follow your heart.
Food and heart. Love it. Yeah, I completely resonate with what you just shared, which is why we're here, right? That's why we're in Solo
Mm,
Circle. Why we meet every few weeks to get together, share our challenges, our projects, our wins.
mm,
So yeah, our community is very very deep, I think. So yeah, Lisa, thank you so
mm.
much for sharing your journey with us, your thoughts, and your experiences.
Thank you for asking. It's interesting for me what comes out when you ask me these questions, right? So fantastic. Thanks a lot. My
Thank
pleasure.
you. All right. So we'll